Ladies and gentlemen, the roundtable with the industry is being chaired by none other than the National Secretary, India Bullion and Jewelers Association, IBJA. एक बार जोरदार तालियां for Mr. Surendra Mehta, sir. Inviting next on stage the Managing Director and CEO of India Gold Metaverse, Mr. Lamon, Rutten. Inviting next the General Manager for International Financial Services Centers Authority, IFSCA, Mr. Ramakrishnan Padmanabhan. Already online with us is the MD and CEO of MCX, Ms. Praveena Rai has already been online waiting for this session to start. A big warm formal welcome to Madam Praveena Rai in the house. Also inviting the Director Amrapali Industries, Mr. Chirag Thakkar, Mr. Sachin Jain, the Regional CEO India for the World Gold Council, the General Manager Sam Precious Metals, Mr. Mohammad Ayyob. Also, of course, yet another man who needs no introduction, the Chairman of All India Gems and Jewellery Council, the very vibrant Mr. Rajesh Rokde, and Mr. Harshad Ajmera of JJ Gold House. A big warm welcome. Happy to see Mr. Ajmera yet again in the house. Inviting next from HDFC Bank, Mr. Neville, Patel. And last but not the least, the Director for AKW Consultants, Mr. Sadi, Ahmad. I leave this session in the hands of Mr. Surendra Mehta.
Thank you, Ruchika. You have been outstanding as far as IGC conference is concerned. And we are seeing you for last so many years. And you really make everybody, very, to everyone, in very simple language, you try to make things better and better for the conferences. Thank you, Ruchika. We have some outstanding and stalwarts of the industry. In fact, none of them needs any introduction. And if you really want to see the introduction of this panelist, I think their organization name and their own name is enough. We have 10 panelists and myself 11, so it's the entire cricket team almost on the stage. And I don't know, Srivastavaji, why you have selected me for such a... But anyway, we have enough time. We have almost 1 hour and 15 minutes for this panel. And this roundtable, we will try to take some critical subject, critical questions of the industry. And I would request everyone to be straight on the answer, as we need to give more and more time because I have a lot of questions. So it is not only round 1, but it will be round 2. And maybe if the time permits, we will also have round 3 also. Let me start with Mohammad Ayyob from Sam Precious. Sir, India and UAE have partnered in gold trade, and since 2022 we are having a lot of gold trade along with your country, especially TRQ quota. So we are importing gold from UAE, but we are still not able to export gold to Dubai. So are there any plans, or what are the things, what is stopping you to accept India good delivery?
Thank you very much for having me on the panel. As usual, I enjoy this conference the most, and it's always good to see my friends and colleagues from the industry. With regards to your question, sir, I think the relationship between the UAE and India has been very special and unique. So I was saying that we need to look at the supply-demand, and we need to look at India as a consumption market. India is a consumption market where Dubai is a re-export hub. It's the second largest export hub in the world. Yes, I agree with you. There are lots of exports happening from the UAE to India for the purpose of manufacturing and consumption. But on the other hand, a lot of manufacturing happening in India is also being re-exported to Dubai in a shape of jewelry. So if you look at the relationship, you will see a raw material coming or a gold coming in India. At the same time, part of it goes investment, savings, and then manufacturing. But then the manufacturing has a re-export process to the UAE. being a gateway to the GCC and Southeast Asia and the rest of the world. So if you look at numbers, you will see that numbers make sense. Yes, there are imports coming into India, but there are a large number of exports of jewelry coming into the UAE, also taking advantage of the bilateral agreement of SEPA. So the imports of jewelry into the UAE gets a privilege and gets a reduced duty percentages into the UAE. So it's a win-win situation.
This India-UAE relationship, as far as TRQ quota is concerned, has been doing good since up to last year. But this year, because of some government intervention and some people going to port, the import have not started. So do you still think that this relationship of importing gold from UAE and exporting jewelry to UAE is working well?
It will remain well. See, even there is a delay now in the TRQ. Till now, it's not been finalized, and we're waiting. But if you look at the whole SEPA thing, we're talking about the 20% only of the total gold trade business. So it's not only the SEPA which makes it very attractive. We are talking about a strategic locations and a good infrastructure. So shipping from UAE to India has never been smoother. It's very smooth. Pricing mechanism, the payment gateways, or the way that we do the payments in between two countries. This is all makes it very attractive. Plus the confidence of the brands or the confidence of the UAE good delivery standards, that makes it also more attractive. I agree with you. The gold hasn't been performing well the past couple of months, but there are more reasons. It's not only the TRQs. You see the gold prices now, which slows the demand a little bit. But it will come back, and it will not go away. It will continue to remain there.
Thank you, Mohammad. Neville, I'll come to you. We all know that the bullion is, as a bank, you facilitate supply of bullion through the three channels, IIBX, consignment sale, and gold metal loan. How does your customer choose the channel?
So broadly, there are about two sets of customers, which should typically be the bullion dealer or trader, and the second is the jewelry segment. So obviously, they are guided by certain regulations, which kind of allow them to, participate in consignment or IIBX or gold metal loan. So like a trader cannot borrow gold from a bank because regulations don't permit that. So basically, a trader has got consignment and IIBX, and a jeweler has an option of all three, right? I think what goes into, choosing a particular path or a particular route is basically the ease of transaction. I think that is one. The second is, the cost of kind of holding that inventory. So if the cost associated with holding inventory is cheaper, I think that is a natural choice. So these are two, main elements that go into it, and then obviously how well the customer gets serviced and relationship and all those other aspects come in. But I think the real core issue is cost and ease of transaction. The easier it becomes to transact, or the easier it becomes to take delivery of metal, I think customers will choose that. And they would be fine to even pay a little more, right? As long as they're getting that ease, convenience is there. So if I had to prioritize, I'll say the ease of transaction and then maybe the cost associated with it. I hope that answers your question here.
Yes, thank you. Ramakrishnan, I will come to you. IFSCA has been engaged in the stakeholders, with the stakeholders in creating the vibrant ecosystem for gold and precious metal. Even after 3 years, over 90% of the trade is driven by UAE, India, SEPA gold. Why? And from a regulatory perspective, what more can be done?
Good morning, and thanks for inviting me to this panel discussion. As a regulator, in fact, if you look at our regulatory, the enablements that we have done since 2021, In fact, the first circular that we introduced was for the bank's participation, especially in the OTC market, where in which we permitted them to operate unallocated accounts. And in fact, that particular transaction, that kind of transaction in terms of OTC forwards, we understand that it is attaining a state where in which there is likely to have some incremental volumes that will add up. Then we have also, through negotiations and through coordination with the other regulators. So for example, the Reserve Bank of India enabled in December 2022 for gold price to be hedged on IFSCA exchanges. And subsequently, the spot market, that is, as you are aware, the spot enablements came. So it is not that our focus as a regulator has been only on the TRQ. We, as a regulator, have enabled everything. So whether it's derivatives, and that is whether it's OTC derivatives. In fact, the OTC derivatives took a little bit more time because of the fact that the RBI enablement came in 15th of April 2023. But the hedging on IFSC exchanges was enabled in December 2022 itself. Now it's up to the exchange based on the demand structures and through their stakeholder interaction that they have come out with the product lines for TRQ holders. And in fact, if you actually observe, if I'm not wrong, they started out with the LBMA and the UAGD as separate contracts. And the TRQ contracts came a little later after the enablement came. So it's not that, in fact, the exchange has to answer that question specifically on why those volumes have not come in the other segments. Some may be of very operational in nature. As far as the derivatives, that is the futures is concerned, I am pretty sure you must be aware that probably the same structure exists for any commodity hedging, irrespective of gold or any other commodities where the margin settlements are to be done to a broker from India. It is I guess it will be difficult. Maybe Lamon can actually add to that at some point of time. That is probably the reason why a lot of entities which are into commodity trading or for that matter, the actual users may have set up subsidiaries overseas for the purpose of hedging on metal exchanges like LME. So as far as we are concerned as regulators, we have continuously been striving to make the system more vibrant. Yes, I do agree that the current structure of the exchange is depended too much on the spot markets, especially on the TRQ volumes. And I think that anyways, the bullion exchange is working towards diversification into derivatives as well as longer dated contracts, whether you can say a T+2 or something which is beyond T0 settlement, because we understand through stakeholder interactions that the advance remittance of maybe 105% may be still having some kind of a working capital cost attached to it, and therefore you need to have those longer dated contracts. I think the exchange is already working towards getting that operationalized, and I'm pretty sure soon you would see some kind of a diversification into the other contracts as well.
I just want to understand, normally in any country, whenever there is an exchange regime, the import of gold from through the other channels are not permitted. What IFSCA is trying to do on this?
See, as far as IFSCA is concerned, and in fact it is flowing from the working group itself that was constituted by the India Gold Policy Center, and based on their recommendations, there has been continuous discussions on this matter, whether to mandate the imports or whether to incentivize the imports. Now that is a proposal that is actually, the decision has to be taken by the government of India, because the foreign trade policy is not governed by any of the regulatory authorities. It is actually with the government of India. So it is up to them to take the decision. From our side as IFSCA, we have been suggesting and proposing that mandating or incentivizing should be the ideal way forward. But the ball is actually with the government of India.
You are regulator, right?
No, regulator doesn't mean that we can influence a foreign trade policy. That is a policy that is up to the government. We can only suggest as a measure to augment the volumes on the exchange. And we can show the data points for them to make them understand where the volumes lie at this point of time. And you are very well aware where the volumes lie at this point of time. And you're also aware that what is happening in the Chinese markets or the Turkish markets. So we can give these examples, but it is up to the government, and I'm pretty sure they are looking into it in an appropriate manner, where in which they would want to decide in the interest of all the stakeholders. The thing is that they have to take into account every stakeholder interaction. So it's not only limited to the IFSC undertaking a stakeholder interaction, but it also includes the other stakeholders who might be against the thought process of mandating everything on an exchange ecosystem. What we have suggested is that we don't want disruption. See, any kind of a change, it takes a bit of time to assimilate into the markets. What we can also suggest is that over a period of time, maybe there's a possibility of moving gradually or transition into an exchange-based ecosystem. But it's still a point that the government has to consider based on our suggestions.
Harshad bhai, Ramki said that they don't want any disruption. But there had been a lot of disruption because of, many loopholes through which the gold has been imported into India, which reduced the gold ore import, resulting into shutdown of a lot of refineries. TRQ quota was also one of the reasons that refiners were not operating, because the the custom duty on TRQ quota was 5%, and for gold refining it is 5.35%. So are you seeing the better days are coming for the refinery because somebody through the legal procedures have stopped TRQ quota?
जय जिनेंद्र, नमस्कार। आज की तारीख में इंडिया के अंदर में 6 महीना के अंदर में 71 टन दोहरे बार इंपोर्ट हुआ है। और जो आपने बताया वो एकदम सही है। अभी कोई लूप पॉइंट नहीं रहा है, उसके लिए हम गवर्नमेंट का हम आभारी है। रिफाइनरी के लिए अभी अच्छे दिन आ सकते हैं यदि गवर्नमेंट हमको थोड़ा सहयोग करे, थोड़ी कंडीशन में रिलैक्सन देवे तो हमारे लिए भी अच्छे दिन आ सकते हैं। कस्टम की कंडीशन नंबर 50 2017 की 40 नंबर धारा में ABC के अंदर में हम बदलाव चाहते हैं। यदि उसके अंदर में आज की तारीख में जो है कि ओरिजिन कंट्री से गुड्स डिस्पैच होना चाहिए, उसमें यदि थर्ड कंट्री का भी अलाउ कर दिया जावे तो हमारे सोर्सेज बढ़ जाएंगे। कि बहुत जगह में UAE में जैसे हैंड डिलीवरी दोहरे बार का अलाउड है, इंडिया में नहीं है, तो उसको भी अपने इंडिया में UAE से भी इंडिया में आपने ला सकते हैं। यदि वो ओरिजिन कंट्री से डिस्पैच का कंडीशन हटा दिया जावे और थर्ड कंट्री से भी डिस्पैच का रखा जावे तो हमारा सोर्सेज बढ़ सकता है। और 5 किलो का दोहरे बार के बदले में 2 किलो का दोहरे बार का भी परमिशन दिया जावे, ताकि देखिए कोई भी माइनर एक साथ में 5 किलो जमा करके भेजने में बहुत टाइम लगता है उनको, तो यदि 2 किलो का भी परमिशन दिया जावे तो हमारे लिए सुविधाजनक होगा। और दूसरा कंडीशन है कि ऐसे सर्टिफिकेट एंड पैकिंग लिस्ट माइनिंग कंपनी का ही होना चाहिए। उसमें भी यदि थोड़ा रिलैक्सन दिया जावे, माइनिंग कंपनी का रहवे, चाहे एग्रीगेटर का रहवे, चाहे एक्सपोर्टर का रहवे, उसको भी अलाउ किया जावे। क्योंकि बहुत सारी जगह पे ऐसा छोटे छोटे माइनर्स रहते हैं, वो माल एग्रीगेटर को जमा कर देता है और एग्रीगेटर एक साथ में मिला के 5 किलो का ऊपर का बार बना के इंडिया भेजता है। तो यदि एग्रीगेटर का भी पैकिंग लिस्ट और ऐसे सर्टिफिकेट का अलाउ किया जावे तो हमारा यहाँ पे सप्लाई लाइन बढ़ सकता है। तो ये, और इसके अंदर में गवर्नमेंट को कोई भी जगह पे फाइनेंशियली नुकसान नहीं हो रहा है और हमारा सोर्स बढ़ जाएगा और धीरे धीरे हम इसको आगे ले जा सकेंगे। जो आज 30% हमारा मेक इन इंडिया का माल बन रहा है, उसको हम 100% पे ले जाने के लिए तैयार है, क्यों हमारी कैपेसिटी 1500 टन की है, हम यूटिलाइज हार्डली 250 टन करते हैं। तो इसमें ये बदलाव आ सके और गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से सहयोग मिले और सभी एसोसिएशन इसमें सहयोग दे तो 100% हम मेक इन इंडिया में आगे बढ़ सकते हैं। और गवर्नमेंट यदि चाहे तो स्क्रैप गोल्ड का भी परमिशन दे सकते हैं हम लोग को। तो स्क्रैप गोल्ड का भी मार्केट बहुत कंट्री में बड़ा है, वहाँ से भी हम लोग माल ला के हम यहाँ रिफाइन कर सकते हैं और हमारे अच्छे दिन आ सकते हैं।
लेकिन हर्षद भाई, आपको ये लगता है कि जब तक ड्यूटी में चेंजेस नहीं हुआ तब तक रिफाइनर्स के लिए ज़िंदगी मुश्किल है?
जी 100%। कोई भी कंट्री में फिनिश बार की ड्यूटी नीचे रहती है और रो प्रोडक्ट की ड्यूटी ऊपर रहती है, ऐसे कभी आप लोग ने सुना नहीं होगा। इंडिया में ये चीज़ चल रही है। इंडिया के अंदर में सेफा के अंदर में 5% में इंडिया में गोल्ड इंपोर्ट हो रहा है और दोरे बार 5.35% में इंपोर्ट हो रहा है। हम इंडिया की रिफाइनरी कैसे सरवाइव कर सके? आज फिनिश माल ही सस्ते में मिल रहा है तो हमारे रिफाइन में हम रिफाइन करके कैसे बिक्री कर सके? तो हम गवर्नमेंट से ये चाहते हैं कि जो भी सेफा या कोई भी ट्रीटी के अंदर में कोई भी ड्यूटी में माल आता है उससे 0.65 1% भी नहीं मांग रहे हम, 0.65 का डिफरेंस हम मांग रहे हैं ताकि हम सर्वाइव कर सके और हम 100% मेक इन इंडिया में पूरा माल इंडिया में हम बना सके। तो हम ये यदि 5% में सेफा में आता है तो हमारी रिक्वायरमेंट है 4.35% में दोरे बार हमको लाने की परमिशन दिया जावे। जो आज का जो डिफरेंस है 0.65 के बदले में 165 कर दिया जावे तो 100% हम विद इन 3 या 4 ईयर्स के अंदर में हम 100% मेक इन इंडिया में माल बनाना चालू कर सकते हैं।
मैं आपके पास वापस आऊँगा थोड़ी देर के बाद ये समझने के लिए कि क्यों पूरी ड्यूटी को कम कर दिया जाए या सिर्फ सेपा की रिक्वायरमेंट के जितना ही कम किया जाए, मैं बाद में आता हूँ। वी हैव प्रवीणा रॉय virtually joining us from Mumbai. MCX has been the most successful commodity exchange as far as bullion is concerned in our country, and they have lot of innovative products. And if you recognize bullion, you have to recognize MCX as one of the most respected commodity exchange of this country. But still, I have one specific question for you. Why 80% of your open interest is still concentrated in a near month contract, and why you don't have a longer contract for a 1 year contract with 1 year maturity or something like international exchange where they have 5 year maturity contract?
Thank you, Surendra bhai. Wonderful to be here at IGC, and unfortunately, I'm missing being with the panel. Otherwise, I can really connect to all the wonderful conversations going on. So look forward to connecting to everybody offline. And this is a brilliant question that you're asking. At MCX, as you know, on the derivative side, futures and options, we have had good growth, significant growth, in fact, in the last few months. Of course, all the geopolitical situation, what's happening with the US and various factors are contributing to this. So our daily throughput has nearly gone 3x, over the few months recently. And when we are looking at our numbers, this near month versus far month is a continuous analysis that we are doing. We have studied and seen that while we have built good depth and mature level of liquidity in the near months, we are also seeing a reasonable level of liquidity starting to build up in a month 3, month 4 kind of time frame. So, in fact, we are currently under process with internal reviews and approvals and so on and so forth to start looking at the month 5, month 6, out there, which we have not earlier had on our calendar. I'm confident that we should be able to slowly drive this far month product requirements. We will have to build this month by month and take it further. Now, I would request the technicians if you can just be on mute, please. Thank you so much. So I also, we've been talking to the industry So on one hand, we have commercial participants. Of course, many of our industry leaders are on stage. So the importers, traders, refiners, as well as the jewelers, they too seek sort of a mid-month to further month tenors. And interestingly, because we need both the commercial participants and the financial participants to be interested in each one of these. And financial participants that today who have not been as active in the past, which is domestic institutions, are now starting to get highly active. So in fact, the number of bullion and gold ETFs that have been recently launched, the multi-asset funds that have been recently launched, where commodity derivatives are a part of that in the mutual fund industry, is also a continuous conversation we are having. And they are interested parties in also having further month contracts. So now that there are commercial participants and financial participants who have further month contract interest, I think the time is right for us to start moving this forward. Now, we've also done a good amount of margin rationalization in the last few months, looking at all the risk analysis and volatility parameters in the market. And as we have done that in gold and silver, we've also started thinking of, is there a need, is there an opportunity to differentiate how margin in the far month can look as compared to what we have today in the near month, when obviously volatility is just around the corner and the ability to react faster has to be available. So I think these are some of the tools also available with us. Market interest, market demand, maturity that we already have in the near months, as well as this certain tools that we can deploy to make far months more attractive. There was a conversation around India refinery and local demand, and we believe that's a very, very important part of what the industry is in the midst of. And accepting India good delivery is also something that MCX is very proud of. We've started doing that. There is a good delivery standard that MCX has for the domestic market. And all of this put together makes me believe that we will keep pushing the envelope when it comes to far months. So I hope by the time we speak next year, we'll be in a better position than we are now.
I'll come back to you with some more interesting question about the spot market and why contango is very high in your exchange. But let me first go to Chirag. Chirag, by 2025 everyone knows is the historic year. The gold prices are soaring like anything. The custom duty got reduced from 15% to 6%. But still, we find there is a lot of discount. Why it is so?
Very good morning, everyone. So, yeah, it has been a fantastic year. Most of a very congratulations to everyone who's holding gold till now. And I would also want to not even anyone to sell it, because we see the prices going up. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market. But answering your questions, why there are discounts in the market? So, we are still at a better discounts rather than what we expected. If we see these prices at these levels, and if TRQ would have been on, and if there are uncertain other ways of importing gold would have been on, we would have seen more discounts than what we have today. Today, the disparity is more of a demand and supply, actually. So I was speaking to some jewelers yesterday, and I came to know that there was a level at 95,000 or 98,000. There were lots of scrap coming into the market. But since last 1 week, when we have seen such a up move in the prices, still there is no scrap coming into the market. So that is actually supporting the discount what is there in the market. But if you see more scrap coming into the market, it will be very less of jewelers supply which they would take as a input and make a jewelry and take things further for their sales. So I think this disparity is still at a nice level, wherein we are still at a situation where there is no situation that there is no sustainability yet. So we are still there.
So you think that once the more scrap comes, there would be more discount, so this is a better period?
I think if prices go up from here, I think now India has as a whole value chain, India now thinks it is not a right time to go and sell the gold. Now it has been understood until unless we crossed 102, 104, 105, by the time India was like, okay, it's going to come down very soon, we're going to see better pricing. But now I think India knows there is no correction happening. It might come at small corrections, but now India is up for higher prices actually.
Yesterday, Jignesh Bhai had a great presentation and everybody was amazed to see, what he's talking about and the future of the industry. But let me tell you honestly, after his speech was over, when I was near the dining area, most of the participants were still asking me, what is India Gold Metaverse? So can you just explain it briefly?
We are basically, if you want, bringing technology as the backbone of the gold market, but in a way different from what has been done so far. There are really three differences, three key types of innovations that we believe we can bring to the gold market. One is that the way that we look at the sector, for us it is one integrated ecosystem. Right now, what you see from our perspective is 4 pillars. You have a bullion pillar, a jewelry pillar, a gold loan pillar, and a digital gold pillar. And there are connections between the pillars, but there's still 4 vertical pillars with some connections. We look at this as something that needs to be re-engineered. Instead of having those pillars, what we are looking at for the future, our vision, is to have a network with nodes, and in those nodes you can have jewelers as nodes, manufacturers, financiers. You have all these different players, but they're really nodes in a network, and each node has to be empowered across the whole spectrum of these what are now pillars. So that's one part of it. That we really want to re-engineer the relationships between these different parts. Second thing, which is very important, is a mindset issue. If you look, for example, at the jewelry sector in India, it's growing fast. But if you then look at the detail of that growth, you see that it's concentrated in a handful of companies. It's the formal sector that is growing, the informal sector is stagnating. Now, why is that? It's because the pattern of growth is not inclusive. There's no true partnership approach. The smaller jewelers are replaced by affiliates of the big jewelers. It's not a genuine partnership approach. Now, our background is very much different. Many of you probably know that I managed MCX for many years, a long time ago already. And when I was at MCX, I visited many smaller towns in India, many Mandi towns. And I saw myself the vibrancy in those smaller towns. And I also heard how people felt left behind by the traditional financial industry. At MCX, in no time, we had double the reach of the National Stock Exchange, for example, because our approach was very much inclusive, partnership-oriented. We looked at partners throughout the country. And that's our mindset now. We do not want to replace anyone, we want to empower people. Now, and then comes the third element. We will empower people through technology. The karatometer that Jignesh showed yesterday is one element of that technology package. There are other parts that are quite innovative. What they all have in common is that these are technologies that change the game. Many people look at technology as something that you can use to improve what you're already doing. That's not how we look at it. It's not how a disruptor looks at it. A disruptor looks at technology as enabling something that you could never do before. Now, if you look at these karatometers, they are a fraction of the cost of these big boxes that are now being used. Just spend a minute thinking about what that means. The kind of things you can do with a karatometer at a fraction of the cost of the current karatometer. All the things that were impossible for smaller jewelers, for example, suddenly become possible. Okay? So technology empowers people if you want to empower them, and that's what we want. We are looking at an inclusive model, creating this true ecosystem where people are empowered through technology to be a player in all of these four, what are now verticals, bullion, jewelry, gold loans, and digital golds. So that's our vision. I think we've done it in the past, and I think we can do it again.
But two more questions to you. You said it is comparative to a normal XRF machine. This keratometer is very cheap. So if you can tell our delegates what will be the price of this keratometer? And second question, how accurate is the keratometer?
If you weren't in the presentation yesterday, basically same results. We've tested it accurate. I don't want to go into the details of the technology. Frankly, I don't know myself which of those details we are actually meant to keep secret, but tested, it works. We're not selling it. It is an enablement tool for our network. Basically, you'll get it as by becoming part of the network that we will be creating.
So you are not selling those keratometers?
Yeah, but what I can say is that cost-wise, it's really a fraction of the big machines that exist now. It will, according to our estimates, it will generate profits for virtually every jeweler in India. It's that cheap. It becomes feasible really for the masters of jewelers to have their own keratometer. And if you have your own keratometer, you can start accepting gold for gold loans, and all the other things become possible.
Thank you. I'll go to Sadi Ahmad. Sadi, artisanal and small-scale mining, as we all know, are the critical source of gold globally, which Harshad Ajmera also said. But it is linked to risk and negative perception. So how the India and global market can support this formalization of small-scale mining and artisanal mining while also ensuring responsible source of...
Good morning. Thank you for that question. That's a very interesting question. Before I answer that question, I want to emphasize on the relevance of that question. When we talk about artisanal mining, we have seen that there has been a rapid exponential growth in recent years, largely due to the rising value of mineral prices and also due to lack of reliance on agriculture and other rural practice for livelihood in the rural sector. Today, an estimated 50 million people rely on artisanal mining in more than 80 countries, and about 200 to 300 million people are benefiting from it through secondary activities and downstream industry. In gold, artisanal mining accounts for about 20% of the annual gold mining production. That's roughly about 700 to 1,000 tons, and that's a very big number. Despite this, the sector is largely informal. There is a lack of regulatory framework. And this is the reason why there is the perceived risk that we talk about and why there is a negative perception about ASM. Now, what needs to be done is we need to work collaboratively. All the market players in the entire value chain needs to come together. The solution does not lie with one of the actors alone. It requires collaboration among the governments, among the refiners. You know, they play a very, very important role. The traders, the local communities, the civil society organizations, and of course, the local community and the ASM. It's important to understand that ASM should be looked at as an ecosystem interconnected with its own local realities, which includes the cultural, the social, the economic, and the environmental context of the local region which we are talking about. So, as I said, the market player, India, and the other market players globally need to work together with the local governments in the producing countries to establish regulatory framework that promote responsible mining practices. That's very important. It cannot be done just by establishing frameworks or regulation. You know, we need to understand that what we are dealing with, and the local communities have their own practical realities. So we need to empower the local community. There has to be benefit that needs to be passed on to the local community. The stakeholders need to take up community development programs that includes work in the education sector, in health and safety, in building infrastructure for the local people out there. Also, another very important thing is that, you know, this sector lacks access to finance. You know, that is one of the key reasons why they do not have modern equipment, facilities, access to technology or safety measures. So what really needs to be done is there has to be schemes that needs to be promoted that can allow them to have that kind of money to invest into responsible mining. We can't expect them to have or follow responsible mining systems and processes when they probably do not have enough to eat also in some of the cases when we talk about it. Also, you know, they must be given access to the markets. There is a limited access that they have to the market. So they should be given access to fair prices, market linkages, and other kind of collaboration that can allow them to grow. And that can only happen if the Indian and the global players in this market actually embed responsible sourcing practices into their operation, right? So unless the key players accept this as, of course, there is, you know, a lot of emphasis when we talk about the profitability and we talk about the gains, but we need to understand that sustainability is the future. Sustainability is not something that is optional at this moment. It is something which is a reality and which needs to be accepted by the market players. So they need to invest responsible sourcing practices, assess the risk, ensure that the supply chain is free from some of the risk that is associated with it. Now, you know, in short, we need to transform ASM from a perceived risk into a responsible opportunity. Collaboratively, all the stakeholders need to work towards ensuring that we contribute to strengthening the due diligence process, contribute to the improvement of local livelihood and well-being of the ASMs, and enhancing the trust and traceability in the gold supply chain.
Let me come to Rokde sir. India has always been a jewelry manufacturing hub, and we make the most competitive, the best jewelry in the world at the most competitive prices. But still, we have not been able to capture the entire export market. So what do you expect from the government and what do you expect from the industry? And राजेश जी, जब आप आंसर देंगे तो आपके आंसर में एक शायरी होना कंपलसरी है।
या मेहता जी, थैंक यू। बिल्कुल चिंता का विषय है कि कहीं ना कहीं हम लोग एक्सपोर्ट में जितना हमें एक्सपोर्ट चाहिए उससे हम कम क्यों है। और मुझे लगता है एक्सपोर्ट मार्केट बहुत बड़ा इसलिए है क्योंकि इंडिया के पास सबसे ज़्यादा अपॉर्चुनिटी होने के बावजूद हम एक्सपोर्ट इसलिए नहीं कर पा रहे क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं हैंडमेड का जो एडवर्टाइजमेंट बोलिए या फिर ऑल ओवर वर्ल्ड जिसे मैं देखता हूँ हैंडमेड को बहुत ज़्यादा महत्व दिया जाता है। अब्रॉड जाता हूँ तो वहाँ हैंडमेड को उतना प्रमोट नहीं किया जाता, ओनली मेड इन इंडिया या मेक इन इंडिया कहा जाता है। बट मेक इन इंडिया हैंडमेड ज्वेलरी उसका थोड़ा सा अगर मैं बाहर देखता हूँ तो उसका बहुत ज़्यादा महत्व है। और ये एक्सपोर्ट के लिए ऑलरेडी वी हैव अ GGPC, दे आर टेकिंग केयर ऑफ दैट, बहुत अच्छी तरीके से वो ध्यान दे रहे हैं। लेकिन ये इतना बड़ा सेक्टर है कि केवल एक GGPC के साथ में और भी लोगों ने सपोर्ट करना चाहिए। IBJA ने भी कोशिश करनी है, GJC वी आर ट्राइंग आवर बेस्ट। इनफैक्ट वी आर प्लानिंग कि आने वाले दिनों में कि हम लोग, हमारा एक प्रीफर्ड मैन्युफैक्चरर ऑफ इंडिया करके एक प्रोग्राम होता है, वी आर प्लानिंग कि हम इसे इंडिया के बाहर भी करें, क्योंकि अगर आप ओमान जा रहे हैं या किसी और जगह जा रहे हैं तो वहाँ के लोकल बायर्स को भी वो ज्वेलरी चाहिए, बट दे आर नॉट कंफर्टेबल टू ऑल टाइम टू ट्रैवल टू इंडिया। सो उनके डोर स्टेप जब हम जाएंगे तो 100% इसका एक अलग इम्पोर्टेंस मिलेगा। और इंडिया की जो ज्वेलरी, मैं वैसे भी डायमंड में तो नो डाउट कि हर 15 में से 14 हीरे 13 हीरे इंडिया से होके जाते हैं। इंडियन ज्वेलरी भी उसी तरीके से, जिस तरीके से अभी आपने यूएस में टैरिफ की बात भी जोड़ता हूँ उसके साथ, यूएस ने जिस तरीके से टैरिफ लगाया, तो मुझे तो इसका उल्टा रिफ्लेक्शन ये दिख रहा है कि हैंडमेड ज्वेलरी जो इंडिया स्पेशलाइज्ड है बनाने में, वो ज्वेलरी वहाँ पे थोड़ी महंगी हो जाएगी या वो ज्वेलरी वहाँ अवेलेबल नहीं रहेगी। तो उसमें जो बायर आज यूएस में है, वो बायर ऑटोमेटिकली शिफ्ट होके एक तो यूएई में आ जाएगा या इंडिया ट्रैवल करने की कोशिश करेगा, तो कहीं ना कहीं वहाँ की बाइंग शिफ्ट हो जाएगी। तो इससे वहाँ का टैक्स कलेक्शन में भी डिफरेंस आ सकता है, फ़र्क आ सकता है। तो अभी तो ठीक है, हमारे पास फेस्टिव सीज़न है और ये फेस्टिव सीज़न में होने के वजह से एकदम से इम्पैक्ट नहीं है, बट फेस्टिंग और वेडिंग अगर फिनिश हो जाता है उसके बाद भी अगर यही टैरिफ का परेशानी रहती है तो 100% ये इम्पैक्ट करेगा ही करेगा। और भारत तो पहले भी सोने की चिड़िया थी, है और रहेगी, और हमें रूट लेवल तक के जाने की ज़रूरत है। आज भी बहुत सारे ऐसे एग्जिबिटर्स हैं, दे आर नॉट कंफर्टेबल टू एक्सपोर्ट, क्योंकि उन्हें वो रूट, वो पाथ नहीं दिख के आता है। तो डोमेस्टिक मार्केट में आज भी ऐसे छुपे रुस्तम आपको मिल जाएंगे कि अगर हम लोग क्षेत्रीय लेवल पे जा के उन्हें प्रमोट करें, उन्हें बताएं कि ये दिस इज़ अ वेरी इजी वे टू एक्सपोर्ट। क्योंकि जब ग्लोबलाइज मार्केट में हम एक्सपोर्ट करने की शुरुआत करते हैं तो उन्हें भी नई डिज़ाइंस चाहिए। आज पहले और अभी में ये था कि हम लोग पहले जब व्यापार करते थे तो पर्टिकुलर किसी एक शोरूम में जाके या किसी होलसेलर्स के पास जाके हम लोग डिज़ाइंस लेके आते थे, लेकिन एग्जीबिशंस की वजह से हर रिटेलर को बहुत सारी डिज़ाइंस एक छत के नीचे मिलती है। सेम चीज़, यही चीज़ हम लोग ने उल्टा करना चाहिए कि जब कभी भी क्षेत्रीय लेवल पे अगर कोई एग्जीबिटर है और ही इज़ नॉट कंफर्टेबल टू टेक अ पार्ट इन एग्जीबिशन, तो हम लोकल लेवल पे कैंप करके वहाँ से किस तरीके से हम लोग एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ा सके, इस पे काम करने की ज़रूरत है। और जैसे कि मैंने कहा है कि केवल जीजेपीसी के अकेले से ही एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ाना या उनके ऊपर ही बहुत ज़्यादा प्रेशर देने से ही एक्सपोर्ट नहीं बढ़ेगा। हमारे पास बहुत सारी डोमेस्टिक बॉडीज़ है। एज अ काउंसिल, एज अ डोमेस्टिक काउंसिल हम हमारी जिम्मेदारी पूरी कर रहे हैं। वी आर ट्राइंग कि यहाँ का एक्सपोर्ट कैसे बढ़े, उसमें बाकी लोगों ने भी ऐसे ही सपोर्ट करना चाहिए। ये इसके ऊपर मेरा सुझाव रहेगा। और रही बात आपने शायरी की कही, तो बस यही कहूँगा कि चांद न होते तो तारे भी न होते, चांद न होते तो तारे भी न होते, और आप सब नहीं होते तो हम सारे भी नहीं होते।
वेल, थैंक यू राजेश जी वो शायरी के लिए और उस वंडरफुल आंसर के लिए। सचिन जी, very relevant, you have been initiating Viksit Bharat Swarnim Udam 2047. So brief में थोड़ा सा we want to understand what is this Swarnim Bharat 2047, and also is World Gold Council doing anything for promotion of gold or acceptance of gold by the provident fund authorities and insurance authorities?
Thank you, Surendra.
Insurance funds.
Thank you so much. First and foremost, a big thanks to you. And I'm the 10th man in your cricket team, so I feel like the Bumrah who's going to do some attack bowling.
So you need to really bowl fast.
I know, I will try my best. So you mentioned about the Swarnim Udaan, and the intent at World Gold Council is to have a long-term vision of the gold industry. We all have heard the Viksit Bharat destination that our respectable Prime Minister has laid out as to what India would do. And the crux is from about a $5 trillion economy, the intent is to do a $30 trillion economy in the next 22 years. Now that's massive. Today, the contribution of the gold industry is give or take about 5 lakh crores, and it's a certain percentage that we contribute to the GDP. Now, in 22 years, if the economic size is going to be 5 times or 6 times of today, and we have two choices. One choice is, let's sit back, let the river flow, wherever we'll get. Or let's look at what are the possibilities of 2047 and what's the actual role of gold in that Viksit Bharat or that developed India. So the intent was to work with, on one side with the futurists of where the world is going, the other side work with industry, and third, most importantly, work with the government on saying what's the aligned view. And if you reflect on a lot of conversations that we had, we're only reflecting on problems of today, which are very important. But the moment you flip it and say, that's my destination, how do I get to? Like, for example, Rajesh bhai, if we have to be the jeweler of the world, 5 things have to be done, right? If we have to be a miner to the world, and we believe that there are a lot of outcomes that will come out of this report, where concrete action plans for 26 onwards could be laid down. And if you are a small entity, you're a big entity, you're the government, there could be a clear roadmap of now to 2047, and we can have views. So that's the approach that we're working on. And I believe, I see a lot of entrepreneurs here, and the way we plan our lives, our organizations, perhaps this could give you a lot of impetus on saying, where would I take my organization or my family or my career to, and do the right things to get on that journey. And the idea or the objective is not to create a report which finds dust in some corner. The idea is that at the end of it, there are concrete action steps and teams that are formed to get us all as an industry to that point of our contribution of 1.5 to 1.75% of the GDP in 2047. And that will open up opportunities of employment, export. We heard about a lot of bullion issues, so all of those things will be a part of it. So that's the intent. Hopefully by end of October, we'll have a published report blessed by the PMO, and it'll be available for the industry to work upon. 2 clear outcomes of that. One is that as World Gold Council, we believe that we need to have a global gold innovation center, which we are partnering with the government of Maharashtra. And the innovation city is coming outside of Bombay, in Navi Mumbai. And we've been invited by the government to set up the first gold innovation center. Now, gold innovation center is not an innovation center for innovating jewelry alone. It is putting the entire value chain of gold, attracting startups, attracting thoughts, and create and solve problems of today and solve problems of 2047. So that's the intent. The second one that's concretely coming out is that we believe that if right triggers are pressed over the next decade, about 20% of the demand of gold could come, or the volume of gold required in our country could come from our own mined gold. That's the other direction. And I hope by end of this year, we could have very clear sort of pillars of the way forward. And Sindbhai, through your next question that you asked me around insurance and provident fund, we've been working with both the regulators in the industry, and the intent is that can the provident fund AUMs be allowed to invest in commodities and like gold? There's a lot of conversation going on. Whether it'll happen in the next 3 months or 6 months, I don't know. But there's a very positive feedback we're getting from the regulator and the industry that from their massive AUMs, part of it, they'll open up that, the regulator allows the companies to invest in gold. And secondly, similarly, in the insurance side as well. And I think the first step, we were thinking it's going to be perhaps 1%, 2%. The intent could be around 5% of the ULIP that they might open up. But the conversation of gold is warm, and we're looking at every possible avenue so that new pillars of consumption can come in. So that's the background.
Thank you, Sachinji. That was wonderful. The whole industry is with you if the provident fund and insurance fund start taking gold as their portfolio. Praveena ji, this is for you. Finance Minister announced the electronic gold receipt almost 3 years back, but we all know we are stuck with GST hurdles in the electronic gold receipt. So at MCX, how are you planning to take EGR forward?
Yeah, I would totally agree that I think this is one of the big opportunities we have for the industry that has failed to see light and has not really fructified in its potential. In fact, even with the recent GST 2.0, the reforms that kicked off, I think this was a case we attempted to make. However, the focus there was quite different. The focus was really to look at driving consumption by rationalization of tariff slabs. So this did not really play a part in that story. But this is a work that is currently in progress. I think we've, of course, worked with IBJA in the past. Past submissions have been made, but we've initiated a new body of work to identify what could be the potential options in front of us and to then work with the GST Council towards a solution. So we really want to target some sort of a conclusion to this in the next 6 months or so. is sort of the time period that at least I have in mind, and I think we'd like to work with everybody towards that. To all officials at the conference, I think this is a support that we require from everyone. There is a natural sort of inefficiency in the way currently it is modeled in the translation of a physical good to a receipt. And then when receipts are bought and sold, and ultimately then finally converted into a physical good again. So the role of GST here is unaddressed in the entire act as well as in the rules, and that's the struggle we are trying to resolve. But I think we should stay very connected to this, probably catch up for monthly consultations on the topic. Surendra ji, you and whoever else from the industry needs to be there. And we should look to bring this to some sort of decision, whichever way that should be.
Thank you. Mohammad, this is for you. India and other so many nations have started, pricing and settling in the local currency. Is it a good objective to work together for both the countries in the local currency?
Thank you for the question. Well, obviously, this is a better, let's say, it's a better ambition for the countries to settle in their own local currencies. But this is also to reduce the FX cost. But is it the time? Is it now or is it later? I think we're, for the short term, maybe it's much better to keep it as is, tied up to the dollar. But mid-term and long-term, it's a time to think of probably settling in the local currencies. Now we need to find a way, or the industry has to find a way on how to hedge themselves against the fluctuation of INR. So eventually, it will, denominate the whole under the SEPA bilateral SEPA agreement between both countries to settle in their own local currencies, but maybe mid-term and long-term, but not at the moment. Thank you.
Neville, this is for you. We have discussed about various channels of gold import through IIBX, consignment, gold metal loan, and which channel you see there is a possibility of improvement for ease of doing business?
I would say there's a need for improvement always in every area. So although consignment has been around, I think there's a need to improve there also. Similarly, IIBX started maybe a few years back, and we've just come on to IIBX maybe 3-4 months back. So difficult for me to say where IIBX needs to improve because we've barely done anything. I think main point being that transactional ease should be there, and efficient costing, I think, is paramount in both segments. In consignment, what we experienced this time was that, the lease that kind of shot through the roof last year really impacted market participants. So this is something I think people need to be more and more aware of, that when you're kind of importing metal, you should have some visibility on demand, because the lease can be quite prohibitive. So I think there's a need for the entire market to understand that there's a cost associated with even consignment, and they need to be watchful. I think consignment, we need more suppliers, because there are less suppliers and they're getting lesser. So I think that is one big area of improvement for, I think, the consignment segment. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Ramki, he said that, he mentioned about, efficiency in the banking system. And so what do you think? What should be done in IIBX to improve the volume?
I don't want to focus too much on only one exchange and the entire ecosystem has to improve, to be honest. And in that, the banks will have to play a major role. So irrespective of whether it is the OTC model, which is the consignment model, or an exchange model, as you may be aware, in the jurisdictions like US or London, the foreign banks play the role in both the OTC as well as the exchange mechanism. So it is important that the banks, the Indian banks, at some point of time, if they have to play a global role, it is important that they start something at least in the gift ecosystem. At this point of time, the gift ecosystem is generally touted as a testing case for the Indian branches of the banks to actually participate in the precious metals ecosystem irrespective of the OTC or the exchange. So I would say that that is the point of inflection. Thereafter, you go global.
Harshad bhai, this is for you. What is your stand on coin hallmarking? And if you say that coin hallmarking is to be done only by the accredited refiners, then what happens to the other refiners? Because we have only, say, we have more than almost 4,000 non-accredited refiners. So what is your position on this?
आज की तारीख में 64 BIS रिकॉग्नाइज रिफाइनरी इंडिया में है और सैकड़ों अनऑर्गेनाइज माइक्रो रिफाइनरी भी है, लेकिन गवर्नमेंट ने अभी जो कमिटी बनाई थी और उसमें जो निर्णय ले रहे हैं कि फ़िलहाल हॉलमार्किंग कॉइन के ऊपर में या बुलियन के ऊपर में करने का जो प्लान कर रहे हैं वो BIS रिकॉग्नाइज रिफाइनरी में ही करने का प्लान कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि वो ऑलरेडी BIS का स्टैंडर्ड को फॉलो कर रही है, फॉलो करके उसको उसी प्रोसेस से काम कर रही है। तो उसके लिए कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है कि वो हॉलमार्क करके कॉइन और बार को दे सके। और कॉइन का टेस्टिंग वगैरह भी जो खुद रिफाइन करते हैं गोल्ड में, उसी का वो कॉइन बनाते हैं। तो उसके लिए वो प्योरिटी की सर्टिफिकेशन और चेकिंग सिस्टम भी, जो टेस्टिंग सिस्टम भी जो BIS रिकॉग्नाइज लेबोरेटरी में है, वो बाहर में मिलना थोड़ा तकलीफ होगा, उसका स्टैंडर्ड पूरा अलग है। इसलिए हमारे हिसाब से जो BIS रिकॉग्नाइज रिफाइनरी है उसी को हॉलमार्क कॉइन का और बार का करने देना चाहिए। और जहाँ तक हमारे जो BIS की कमेटी जो बनाई थी उसमें जो माइक्रो रिफाइनरी वाले जितने एसोसिएशन जिसका था उसका प्रेसिडेंट भी हाज़र रहते थे और उसने भी बताया था कि 2 साल को हमको टाइम दीजिए, हम उसको एक्वा सिस्टम में पूरा कन्वर्ट कर लेंगे। तो और अभी समझिए न 15 से 20 रिफाइनरी और पाइपलाइन में है। तो धीरे धीरे जितनी अनऑर्गेनाइज रिफाइनरी है वो भी रिकॉग्नाइज हो जाएगी और BIS ने उसमें भी 2 साल का टाइम दिया और एक्स्ट्रा भी टाइम चाहिए तो भी मिल जाएगा, उसको बोला है BIS ने। तो मेरे हिसाब से अभी फ़िलहाल BIS रिकॉग्नाइज रिफाइनरी को ही कॉइन बनाने की परमिशन देनी चाहिए। ये 24 कैरेट की बात मैं कर रहा हूँ।
Chirag bhai, this is for you. Investment demand for gold is increasing. I understand that in last 6 to 7 days, the bullion demand has suddenly increased at such a high prices. Now, which demand is increasing? Whether it is physical demand, paper demand, digital demand, and which do you see as the one of the best form of investment?
So the demand is actually what I've been looking at since last 7-10 days. There's a physical bullion demand in the market. It is going to the jeweler, it is going to the manufacturers. I don't know if it is actually going to the investment bars, but it is more towards end use of the material. And we are more positive because since the GST 2.0, the purchasing power for a consumption has been increased, right? So there's more money into the pocket of a consumer who's willing to pay, maybe allocate more towards gold. And the season we are at next month of season of Diwali. So I believe it is more of a stocking and getting ready for the festival demand. Best form to invest is, I believe, we are running a digital gold platform. Obviously, I'll talk about that only. But yes, the best way to invest is digital gold, so it's easier. Very 24 hours, 7 days available, and can be redeemed with a physical gold, with a jewelry, and it can be instantly transferred and gifted to any other your loved ones you want. So that is the answer.
Sadi, you have spoken about the responsible sourcing. What is your what are your thoughts about blockchain technology when we talk of artisanal mining and small minings?
No, yes, I think, look, when we talk about blockchain and technology, we have to realize that it is the reality of today and the existence for future. Technologies that have come up in the recent years have really revolutionized and transformed responsible sourcing and compliance completely. when we talk about the challenges that exist in the gold supply chain, one of the biggest challenges is traceability. When you're mapping the gold supply chain from the gold from the mine to the market. And that's where blockchain technology can play a very important role to map the entire flow of gold from mine to market and ensure that these records are immutable, they cannot be changed, and it's also easily accessible to the regulators, to the bankers, to even the end consumer. So there lies a lot of scope in terms of utilizing the power of technology to build trust in the gold supply chain.
Thank you. Lamon, this is for you. How relevant is IGM in the current scenario of gold industry?
Well, two short points. One, as Jignesh already mentioned yesterday, it's the jewelry sector is already the fourth largest employment sector in India. And if you unlock new opportunities for the smaller players in the sector by linking them to modern markets for their products, modern markets for finance, you create employment, and that's significant. Second, and this is just a thought exercise, but again, it's an important one because it holds out the end goal, the importance of what we can achieve. The value of gold held by households, temples, foundations in India is more or less as big as India's GDP. Now, most of this gold lies idle. Around 10% is used as collateral for either formal or informal loans. The rest lies idle. Now, just imagine that you can create some velocity for the rest of that sector. You can mobilize it. The value that you can create. If you turn this idle gold into something that moves it as economic value, even if you generate 1% only with all that gold, that is 1% extra GDP growth for India. You create a value of 2%, that's 2% extra GDP growth for India. As I said, this is more or less similar size. Now, we don't think we will be the only ones doing that, but we hope we will help to get that movement going. So that's why we believe that this is relevant.
The industry is definitely looking for, IGM to be part of this industry. Rajesh bhai, this is for you. There are various reports that gold consumption, the jewelry consumption is going down. And I personally feel that, India is, we need to make a lot of innovation in jewelry manufacturing, in jewelry design. So, what do you think, what can be done in respect of innovations?
बिल्कुल मैं आपकी बात से अग्री करता हूँ कि कंजम्पशन गोल्ड का जो वैल्यू वाइज में करता हूँ तो शायद ज़्यादा है, बट वॉल्यूम वाइज कम है.
मैं वॉल्यूम की बात कर रहा
हूँ. हाँ, वॉल्यूम, मैं वही और ये इसके पीछे कारण भी है. रीज़न ऐसा है कि क्या होता है, बीच में कुछ ऐसी न्यूज़ आ जाती है या हमारे तरफ से ऐसी कोई न्यूज़ चली जाती है कि गोल्ड रेट विल बी कम डाउन, तो उस समय में कस्टमर रुक जाता है, तो वो जो डिमांड है वो शिफ्ट हो जाती है. दैट इज़ वन ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम. और मुझे लगता है कि वॉल्यूम अगर कम हो रहा है तो अगर पिछले 2 साल पहले, अगर मैं 2023 और 24 की बात करता हूँ, तो कंपैरिजन में कम से कम 40 से 50 टन एक्स्ट्रा इंपोर्ट हुआ है. तो गोल्ड के रेट उसके पिछले साल भी उतने ही बढ़े थे जितने अभी बढ़े. 30%, 35% अभी बढ़े, 30% पिछले साल भी बढ़े थे. तो कहीं ना कहीं जब निगेटिविटी या मार्केट में ये मैसेज जाता है कि गोल्ड के रेट नीचे आएगा तो वॉल्यूम कम हो जाता है. दैट इज द रीजन.
रोकेंगे कैसे?
140
करोड़ की पॉपुलेशन.
नहीं, रोक नहीं सकते, बट सोशल मीडिया से कई बार हमारी इंडस्ट्री के ही लोग कई बार ऐसा बोल देते. दैट इज द रॉन्ग थिंग, नंबर 1. नंबर 2, वी हैव टू बी वेरी क्लियर दैट व्हाट इज द हिस्ट्री. वी हैव टू फोरकास्ट अबाउट द भविष्य लिए वो सोचना चाहिए. दैट मस्ट बी अ रीज़न. वही एक कारण है. अदरवाइज ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड इंडिया इज़ वन ऑफ द जिसे कह सकते हैं वी आर सेकेंड लार्जेस्ट पॉपुलेशन. तो इसे कंज्यूमर करके इंडिया को देखा जाता है. तो मुझे लगता नहीं है कि यहाँ किसी प्रकार की कोई कंजम्पशन में कमी आएगी. ह्यूज अपॉर्चुनिटी इज देयर. जस्ट वी हैव टू बी इन पॉजिटिव मैनर और जितने भी ज्वेलर्स हैं मैं देखता हूँ जो लोग अच्छी तैयारी करके रखते हैं उनको अच्छा सेल मिलता है। अगर आप धनतेरस पकड़िए या कोई भी ऐसा ऑस्पिशियस डेट पकड़ लीजिए, उस दिन जिन जिन लोगों ने तैयारी करके रखी है वो उनको सेल मिला है।
Thank you. Sachin ji, you mentioned in your last answer about innovation center in New Bombay. I understand that this will take some more time, but don't you think this is the time for industry to innovate, and World Gold Council needs to really work hard on the new innovative methods of not only making jewelry but innovative design, like combination of some other precious metal along with gold, so that the buying jewelry becomes cheaper and people are able to afford it.
No, Sundar, absolutely. I mean, I think I have to distinguish that there is a long-term plan. There's also an immediate plan, and immediately we cannot sit and say life is great, nothing to be done. So yes, innovation is required. In the last 4 months, I met 18 companies who are looking at AI, bringing into design and giving solutions which are ready for production. So a lot of things are happening on that area. We'll be happy to work with the industry to garner that. One of the important things that has been the conversation about our export is that it's not just export to the Indian diaspora, it's also understanding what is getting consumed in terms of design, let's say in the Brazilian market, or let's say in these markets which are under 30, 40, 50 tons, and then work towards that. So yes, of course, there is a plan not just to only look at 22 years from now, but plan to saying what's going to happen 2025, 26, and so on and so forth.
Just one more question, Sachin ji, to you. What do you think if the gold prices keeps going higher to this extent, will Indian be able to afford buy gold, and what are your plans for this?
Well, I think the most important thing to see when you look at India, Sunbai, would be that the per capita income of India, which is sheerly the amount of disposable wealth that every Indian has, is $2,700. In the next 10 years, this is slated to cross $8,000, and by 2047, it's supposed to be $14,000. Now just think about it. A large part of India that just aspires to somehow hold 5 grams of gold will have that wealth. So if you look at the India pyramid, that is the real answer to what will continue in terms of demand. And I completely agree to Rajesh Bhai that there is a long lead of how India will consume gold. Jewelry, of course, the younger generation will be buying more digitally. Are we ready to look at that consumer solutions? Can we provide gold in 10 minutes? You were talking to me about storing of gold in different manner. There was a conversation that this generation, the youngest generation, will inherit so much gold from their ancestors and their parents. And are we ready to have the relationship, or will that all come into recycled gold? So a lot of things to be solved. But I fundamentally believe that Indian market will drive the demand. Indian market will be the dominant player in terms of consumption as we go forward.
And I hope I have given justice to each of my panelists. Thank you, Praveena ji, for participating virtually, and thank you all of you for being the wonderful speaker on this subject. Thank you.